right, now let's do some fan questions.
All right, Chael. I was watching some of Conor McGregor's trash talk videos the other day, and I could see the damage that his trash talk had on Jose Aldo. And you could obviously see this in his fight as Aldo was emotional, charged forward, and got knocked down in 13 seconds. So, my question is, do you think psychological warfare is an underdeveloped or an underutilized aspect of MMA? And has there been anyone that you yourself has versed that has been greatly affected by your trash talk? Cheers.
All right, I hate to admit that you're right on this, and I don't know why. I don't know why I resist this. I think because when I came out and started some of the, more vocal antics, I never believed with any part of me I could get under somebody else's skin. Now, that was just following the golden rule of treat other people the way you want to be treated. Assume how you would feel is how you would make someone else feel. I just could never be backed down by somebody's words. I would either be fired up from those words and motivated by those words, or annoyed or pissed off a lot, but never scared. Now, why I say that to you is, and the reason I tell you I resist it, is because that's how I feel. But you're right. Your example specifically of Aldo McGregor was right, and I was stunned to see it. I don't know that I've ever seen Aldo wilt. I don't suggest for you within those 12 seconds of that contest that I saw him wilt there, but I did see him wilt at press conferences. I did see him back down. I did see him intimidated. I did see him frightened. So then you go and get confronted with that, and then he gets, clubbed on the chin, and everybody says, well, yeah, it was psychological warfare, and he was scared to death. Set the fight aside, it does appear that other guys can be affected by that. That it's not just good fun and ticket sales and bringing the audience in on it, or being genuinely upset and trying to get yourself a fight. It does appear that there is some kind of, to your words, psychological warfare. And I always do get surprised when the tough guys get their feelings hurt. And you'll see it in some of these more barbaric type situations. More of this like guerrilla warfare in the street. I don't like that stuff. I'm not proud of that stuff. I don't have bravado in that. I've engaged in that myself. I wasn't proud when I did it. It was wrong when I was involved in it. But it always stems to the same thing, which is one guy said something, now the other guy has his feelings hurt. Now they see each other, now we have to fight. It just seems like in this line of work, you have a phone number that you can call to get that fight, that you don't need to run into each other in the streets. You don't need to bump each other in casinos. You don't need to see each other on sets of reality shows. And it always does strike me how words can hurt some of the toughest guys out there.
Uncle Chael, what's up again, man? So I'm sitting here looking at the match with Adesanya and Whitaker. And real quick, I want your thoughts. I personally think that Jon Jones is a bad matchup for Adesanya. My reason being is because Robert Whitaker is only 6 feet tall. Kelvin Gastelum is only 5'9", and both of them were able to get in on Adesanya. Jones has far more reach than both of those guys. He's the same height as Adesanya, and I feel the only reason that nobody can take down Adesanya is because there's a significant height difference, and it's hard to get in on him. But somebody who has the wrestling background that Jones has the length that Jones has, I think that Jones will be able to get it done. I also think that Adesanya is a one-stop shop. I think his striking is pretty much the only thing that he has working in his favor, whereas Jon can throw punches, he can throw kicks. His elbows are devastating, and he can wrestle you, but he can also submit you. And I don't think that Adesanya is prepared for any of that. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm interpreting your question to mean that Jon Jones has more ways to win that we have seen than Adesanya has ways to win. And I don't think anybody could dispute that. I don't think any reasonable person could go look at their record, particularly when you bring in how many great submissions Jon Jones has had over guys. I also will acknowledge his wrestling and his ground and pound. For whatever reason, Jon Jones's wrestling hasn't been working the same as of late. I don't know the answer to that. It could be as simple as he just isn't going to it. But in the Thiago Santos fight, he didn't go to it. He said after the fact, well, I thought I was doing well on my feet. I just stayed there. He could be telling us the truth. What I thought I was seeing is he wasn't going to it because he wasn't seeing the openings. Why he didn't see the openings, I think we could have a whole nother discussion. It seems to me that his power's a little bit down. It does not seem to me that he's any less dynamic. I do agree with you on that. I also like your observation on the range. When you were bringing in Kelvin, when you're bringing in Whitaker. Let me throw one more at you. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva did very well with Adesanya, at Adesanya's game. Now, that also happens to be Anderson's game. I think some of that had to do with reach. I think more of it had to do with movement. I don't know that Jon offers that same movement, but he does offer that same range. I think that your analysis of the X's and O's is just fine. The one thing that we do know about striking, though, if you can avoid the takedown, it does come down to who the better striker is. I mean, if you avoid the takedown, all of a sudden you're just throwing out all of the ground and pound and all of the submissions. There just aren't submissions done from the feet. So if Adesanya, go back to Jose Aldo, who we talked about a second ago. Jose Aldo didn't take people down and submit them, even though he had a black belt and even though he worked on that stuff every day. He was a master of takedown defense and then punish you on the feet. In large part, I think you got to pass that to Max Holloway. I feel that Max has even changed his style to where he is now just keep you on the feet, keep you at range, and touch you all night long until you fall down. That just seems to be what a lot of guys are doing, even though the opponent might have more ways to win. I feel that these guys that are able to stand up, we're just seeing some of that because your analysis is not incorrect. And I think it does come down. I would like to argue on one point, though. You said that all we're seeing from Adesanya is the stand-up. I would offer for you, if you were to go and look at his first fight in the UFC, that would be true. If you were to go, and that would be the Contender Series. Once he then gets into the UFC, you might even see a guy that had sloppy takedown defense. In his next fight, all of a sudden he's got that same sloppy takedown defense, but now you can't hold him down. Now all of a sudden he's just Mr. I can get up from the bottom. You go to the next fight, now you can't even get him down. Oh, and should I mention, that was against the best wrestler he'd faced yet in Derek Brunson. The best wrestler he'd faced yet, and all of a sudden he doesn't even go to the canvas. You go into another fight, he's in there with Kelvin Gastelum, he gets taken down. He's all of a sudden looking for a submission, scrambling and getting back to his feet. My only point being, we are seeing a guy evolving at a very rapid pace. And when a guy is evolving who is a current world champion, don't forget, he walked into the fight with Whitaker better than he looked in the fight with Kelvin, better than the fight before that against Brunson, so on and so forth. He was a world champion walking into that fight. He had 12 pounds of gold around his waist for a reason and still showed progression. I think that is where the people that are really clinging to Adesanya as the hope and the future and the current and the pound for pound, I think that's one of the things that they're able to see and acknowledge that other people are missing, is growth. And maybe that growth isn't coming as much with the hands and the feet and the knee and from the tight clinch. Maybe that's kind of done, but you can still see from his conditioning growing to his output growing to his calmness, to his confidence, and then to that wrestling defense. And even in the fight with Kelvin, where he's throwing up triangles, I just think you're seeing a real evolution of a guy, and people don't evolve once they become champion. As good as Jon Jones is, Jon Jones today does not beat Jon Jones of 3 years ago. He just doesn't. In fact, Jon Jones of 3 years ago, now it's hard to say because he was so juiced up 3 years ago, but it does appear would be more dominant than he is today. Good news for Jon is he separated himself from the pack. He can go out there and be a lesser Jon Jones and still leave with championships. But I think I think you make a good point. Historically speaking, looking at their resumes, I wouldn't disagree with your point. I'd be curious, though, if you would concede back to me the growth in between competitions of Adesanya.
Hey Chael, my name is Alex, and I got a question for you. So when I was in high school, I lost a very important wrestling match because I made a stupid mistake while I was winning. And I still think about that match all the time. just like my coaches have told me, they still think about like their state championship matches that they might have lost from a mistake. They still think about it all the time. I was wondering, is this normal, or is this something that you do? Do you have matches and fights that you still think about that you might have made a mistake and it still bothers you to this day?
Oh, Alex, I'm so happy. I'm so happy you asked me this question. Misery likes company, my friend. And now all of a sudden I feel a little bit better. Yes. And not as much from fighting. Some of my bigger regrets from fighting, I don't want to name them, but didn't come from a mistake. They came from leaving my skills in the back. For whatever happened, I didn't come out there with that eye of the tiger and that competitiveness. I can live with a loss better than some guys. I can. But I am based performance-wise, not outcome-wise. So if I go out there and perform, man, then it's a two-man sport. And maybe this guy did enough and gets his hand raised. If I don't perform, those can really hurt. But competitively, I'm the same way as you. It was a wrestling match. My sophomore year in college, All-American round, Zach Thompson, Iowa State. I had 1 point. It was 1-0. But with Zach Thompson, 1 point, that's all you're going to get. Nobody could score points on Zach Thompson. Ask Daniel Cormier. Ask Mark Munoz. I mean, everybody used to wrestle Zach. Nobody could score any points. You had 1 point. You had all you needed. Didn't work out for me. Didn't close it out. That's the competition. And Zach's a great guy. We're friends to this day. That's the competition that keeps me up at night.
Hey, Chael, what do you think was the best performance by any fighter in one fight? Besides you beating the hell out of Anderson Silva for 5 rounds. I think it may come down to Anderson Silva versus Stephan Bonner or Kane beating Brock.
The single greatest performance, they say, but there are experts in boxing whose opinion really do kind of carry the sport, and whatever their opinion is just the way the story is going to be told. But they say the most dangerous boxer to ever live this earth was the Mike Tyson that fought Michael Spinks. That Mike Tyson specifically that night, that 93 seconds, was the baddest man to ever step in the squared circle. Spinks was an Olympic champion, a world champion, undefeated. He got knocked down and finished, and fight was over in 93 seconds. Knocked down 3 times, by the way. You guys remember that fight? Don't forget, every time you get knocked down, sure, the ref may only count to 8. That's about 11 seconds, right? That's a ref count. That's not an actual 8 count. It's not 8 seconds. That's the ref. You know how slow they count. They got to stand that guy. You get to your corner. You're to your corner. Hey, are you with me? Okay, hey, step forward. Oh, feel my... He got knocked down 3 times. Fight was in. This Olympic champion, world champion, never been beaten, highest paid, highest gross fight of all time. 93 seconds, lock, stock, and barrel. They're headed for the back. They say that about Mike Tyson in boxing. That comparison that I saw, I believe the Conor McGregor that fought Eddie Alvarez to possibly be the greatest talent that I've ever seen. Possibly. The way he approached that, the pressure that he had on him, it was the biggest gate in MMA history. It stands to this day as the biggest gate in MMA history. It was at MSG in New York for the first time ever. I mean, the pressure that was on Conor McGregor. He moved up weight classes. It was champion versus champion. I mean, the whole bit going into it, but then the actual performance. I mean, you guys, nobody kicks Eddie Alvarez's ass. Nobody has ever kicked Eddie Alvarez's ass, before or since. And it was one of those nights where Conor came out and he just couldn't miss. He just couldn't miss. Anything he tried, any showboating he performed, any defenses or offenses he did, he just couldn't miss.
Hi, Chael. I'd like to hear your opinion about Jan Blachowicz' situation in light heavyweight division. He won 6 out of his last 7 fights. The only loss was against Thiago Santos. And of course, the last fight against Jacare was boring. But nevertheless, he believes, I spoke to him after the fight, he believes that he's done enough to get a title shot. And what's your opinion? He's not a vocal guy. He's not a guy who trash talks in social media. But even you, in your podcast, don't mention his name too often. Why do you think that Corey Anderson is more deserving to get title shot after Dominic Reyes.
All right, so listen, here's what you have to understand, and take it from me because you're never going to get this from the officials, okay? The officials must give off the image that they are rankings and competition based. They must. That is good for integrity in the back. That is good for the integrity of the sport. That is good for the presentation and the understanding. So take it from me, and I'm going to answer your question as plainly as I can. Has he done enough to earn a title shot under a competitive architecture of which does not exist? Sure. Does he have some meaningful wins? You bet. Is he skilled enough? Is he a meaningful challenge? Would that be a hard night out for John Jones? Check, check, and check. You're not getting a title shot unless you have the mandate of the masses. And a promoter's never going to talk to you about that. He's never going to bring that up. He wants you to know that on your own. And if you're not smart enough, or you're not able to get those mandates, or you don't have enough people behind you, you're not getting that opportunity. Now, you may go, well, what about so-and-so? Back in 2007, he didn't have very many fans, but he got a title shot. Sure, you're going to find those examples, and they do happen out there. But I think you're asking me for more of a direct answer. This is not to insult your guy, Jan, in the least. I'm on the other side of that. I'm seeing what you're seeing. I also believe a win over a world champion, which he got by stoppage of Rockhold, and I think taking out a perennial number one contender in Jacare. Man, I hear your argument, but until he has the mandate of the masses, by example, it was very sweet of you to say you talked to him and then come and ask me a question. A smarter move would have been for him to come and ask me the question.
Hey, Chael, big fan. Who do you think is going to win the rubber match between Stipe versus DC? And who do you think has the next heavyweight title shot? Thanks a lot, man.
Oh, well, isn't that a fun one to discuss? You know, I don't want to give you an analysis right now, and it's not to dodge your question. I mean this from a fan perspective. I'm going to enjoy this. I am going to enjoy learning the date of this. I am going to enjoy flying out to that and seeing that live. I am going to enjoy fight week. I'm going to enjoy the weigh-in, which was very telling for their last fight. Stipe comes in at 231 pounds. I got to tell you, now I realize the result doesn't show this. People that were Stipe supporters were in a panic. They were in a panic when he came in 10 pounds less. Because you got to understand how ripped up and lean Stipe is. So if he loses 10 pounds, he just lost 10 pounds of muscle. He didn't have anything else. So the question becomes, why? Is he going to be faster or is he going to be weaker? He showed us he was going to be fat, but we didn't know that going into the fight. So the storyline, that was only the day before. That was the weigh-ins. So the story for that fight just kept telling itself, and it kept telling itself over and over. I want to enjoy that again. I don't want to get in the X's and O's right now. I want to hear from these guys. I want to see their training camps. I mean, listen, Cormier's in a different spot. He's openly said, this is it for me. And Cormier is a guy who will dwell on loss. I mean, they hurt him, and he does not have very many in his life. He does not want to go out like that. But Stipe is not looking to step aside for him either and go, wait a minute, this is the trilogy and this guy's going to grab 2 on me and I'm never going to be able to get it back. I mean, they both, as far as motivation goes and as far as needing, in their own minds at least, needing this win, I want to sit back and enjoy it. But I will tell you, I love the heavyweight division. And a true trilogy, it's rare in this sport. We might see guys fight 3 times, but a true trilogy where each has a victory and then you get part 3, it's something special.
Hi, Chael. Uncle Shane coming to you from London, Ontario, Canada. With all the great talent that's come out of Canada over the years, who's your favorite of all time and why? But before you answer, because I know you're going to say George St. Pierre, it's got to be someone other than George St. Pierre. Who's your favorite non-GSP talent to ever come out of Canada? Here's a quick list for you to jog your memory. Elias Teodoro, Mark Hominick, Sam Stout, Chris Clements, David Loiseau, Joe Dorkson, Rory McDonald, Jason McDonald, Chad Laprice, Ivan Menjivar, Patrick Cote, Jonathan Goulet, Yves Jabouin, Steve Basse, Carlos Newton, and I know there's more that I'm forgetting too. Favorite non-GSP Canadian of all time, how come? Thanks, Chael. Eh?
All right, I can answer that. It's David Loiseau, but it's from a Homer standpoint. David and I trained together for a short period of time at Team Quest in Temecula. It was Dan Henderson's gym. And I flew out there anyway. David was in town and we trained together. And specifically the day that we worked out was stand-up. And that's what David was really, really good at. And you never know when you're training with anybody, but particularly with a new guy and particularly with a guy with a name. And then you come in and, you know, maybe you're in the same spot. You don't know how that guy, is he going to take advantage of you? Can you trust this guy? Is he going to try to get over on you? Or look, are we just teammates? Even though we just met, we're now teammates. Even if it's only been for 10 minutes, we're teammates. And that's got to mean something. To most guys, it does. To me, it does. But I didn't know if it would to Loazo. It did. He couldn't have been a better partner. He stopped partway through the round. He had a kick that he did. It was a Taekwondo kick. And he would do it with his lead leg. And he would stick the foot out. He would just stick it out. He'd straighten it out. And then he'd bring it up and kick you in the head. I said, what are you doing there? Why do I keep falling for this? Why do you keep kicking me in the face? And he said, all I'm doing for a setup is I'm putting this leg straight. But you stop and look at it, don't you? I said, every time. He goes, that's all I'm doing. I just straighten this leg. I wait a beat till you look at it, and I come up and swing it toward your head. But it was just one of these cool things. And I was able to take that with me. I was able to do that to other guys. I was able to go home to Portland and show that to my teammates. And as simple as that may sound for some of you, I hadn't seen it before. And it worked on me repeatedly. I finally asked the guy doing it to me, why is that working? And he goes, let me show you it. So for home reasons, okay, for my own personal experience, David Loazo.
How's it going, Chael? I got an interesting one for you, in my opinion, about Floyd. Floyd coming out of retirement. So one thing that interests me is Floyd never said he's coming out of retirement and what he's going to do. Everybody's kind of up in arms. Is he going to fight here? Is he going to fight there? What if he's coming out of retirement not to fight, but to co-promote with Dana a clash of both worlds, a boxing versus UFC extravaganza, a one-night event? There's been a lot of talks of kind of guys going back and forth. You've got Tyson Fury and Stipe. You've got Floyd wanting Khabib. You've got Canelo and Masvidal or T-Wood. You can also, what about, something like a Deontay Wilder versus Ngannou, power puncher versus power puncher? What if they're working on something along those lines? There's been a lot more talks lately about, mixing the promotions. So wondering what you think about it, and would you be interested, and would you tune in? Thanks, bud.
Well, I got to tell you, look, Floyd's only commodity is that of a fighter. And I realize where many boxing people have fallen for a co-promote with Floyd's promotion company called the Money Team. Allow me to inform you, that's not a real company. They don't promote. They do not have distribution. They do not have contracts. They don't even have an office, let alone a bank account and any money. They're not a real company. They are merely a sticker decal that Floyd sticks on a couple of his cars. That's it. That's all the Money Team is. But he will talk some guys that don't know the fight business who are willing to drop a whole bunch of money in one night just to say they were fight promoters. And believe it or not, there's a lot of them out there. He will talk them into co-promoting. He will bring absolutely nothing to the table other than the decal that says TMT, where some people know that stands for the Money Team. But he has done a good job of making the whole world believe that that actually has value. I'm only telling you that story. It's not even to put down Floyd. Floyd's commodity as a fighter is tremendous, and Floyd's ability to manipulate the media proves that. Floyd's done a great job. But don't make a mistake that the Money Team is anything more than a decal made into a sticker stuck on the back of a car window, because that's all it is. That and a couple of t-shirts is the Money Team. Now, I bring that to you because the last guy in the world you're going to fool in the fight business is a guy named Dana White. That's just not going to happen. So unless Floyd wants to bring the one commodity that he can, which is his athletic performance, those guys got no business together.